paper is about reconfiguration planning for pivoting cube modular robots. Specifically, we address how to reconfigure admissible configurations with non-convex holes, which previous work could not handle. The long-term vision of research in modular self-reconfiguring robots is to make smart materials which can form and reform into different shapes as desired. The ability to adapt a robot's shape to different environments or tasks would be helpful in a variety of situations. For example, in unknown, highly unstructured environments, a robot could shapeshift to fit through narrow passages and climb over obstacles as it encounters them. In remote environments, where it's infeasible or expensive to make new tools or robots for different tasks, having one system that can adapt into many shapes would be useful. It could even be used to make tangible 3D interfaces to interact with computers. A medium-term goal for planning theory is to answer the question of which configurations of modular cubes can shapeshift into which others, under various different motion models for self-reconfiguration. This paper specifically works with the pivoting cube model. We expand the class of 3D configurations known to be reconfigurable to include the ability to handle non-convex holes in admissible configurations. There are three main theoretical models in the literature for how modular cubes could self-reconfigure: by sliding across shared faces or edges, expanding and contracting, or pivoting about shared edges.
Our work is interested in the pivoting cubes model because it's the most mechanically feasible to implement of these three. Indeed, several research groups have built physical prototypes of modular cubes which self-reconfigure by pivoting, as seen in these videos. In this model, modules pivot across shared edges, rotating either 90 degrees or 180 degrees until colliding with another face. The pivoting motion sweeps out a volume that intersects with several lattice cells in addition to the starting and ending locations. All of these cells must be empty to avoid collision. In contrast, sliding and crystalline models only need the destination cell to be empty. Therefore, the literature on planning theory for sliding and crystalline models is not applicable to pivoting cubes. To make the problem tractable, previous work defined a class of admissible configurations. A configuration is admissible if it does not contain any of these three subconfigurations. The red cells are modules, the white cells are empty. By forbidding these three specific subconfigurations, we can guarantee that there is at least one mobile module on the outside, meaning that there's a module which has pivot actions available and can be removed without disconnecting the configuration. Additionally, a mobile module on the surface of an admissible configuration can freely traverse the entire surface without collision. The first and third rules help us avoid situations where there are narrow passages along the surface of the configuration that a module couldn't pivot through without collision. The second rule is needed to avoid situations where the only mobile modules are on the inside of a hole. In this paper, we address the problem of universal reconfigurability for admissible 3D configurations of pivoting modular cubes. That is, given any two admissible 3D configurations of n modules each, output a sequence of pivot actions to turn one into the other. Our algorithm gives reconfiguration plans with O of n squared pivot actions. The fact that we handle all admissible configurations is an improvement over previous work because existing work was not applicable to configurations containing non-convex holes. Our high-level strategy uses a straight line as an intermediate configuration. Our algorithm gives a plan to turn the initial configuration into a straight line, and a plan to turn the goal configuration into a straight line. Then we can reverse the second plan to turn the straight line into the goal configuration. Since mobile modules can freely traverse the surface, to turn a configuration into a line, we can select modules one by one and send them to the end of a tail that we build up from a top corner. This reduces our problem to specifying an order to select modules such that at each module's turn, it can be removed without disconnecting the configuration, and it has a pivot path to the end of the tail, which means it's mobile and not trapped within a hole. Previous work organizes the order of module removal around what it calls slices. A slice is a connected component of a horizontal layer. For example, this configuration has 4 slices because the 2 components of the top layer are not connected within the layer. Previous work removes the entire slices at once. They select and move every module in a slice to the end of the tail before moving any modules from any other slice. They give a 2D algorithm for the order of removal within a slice, and a 3D algorithm for the order of slices to be removed. The problem with removing entire slices at once is that it can disconnect inner modules within non-convex holes. A hole in a configuration is a connected set of empty cells enclosed in all directions by modules. A hole is convex if, for any axis-aligned pair of empty cells in the hole, the line segment connecting the cells is entirely empty. Correspondingly, if there exists a module directly in between two empty cells in the same hole, the hole is non-convex, and we call the module in between an inner module. The issue with inner modules is that even if they're mobile, they're trapped in the hole and can't reach the tail until the hole boundary opens up. But previous work can only open up the hole by removing an entire slice, and sometimes there's no option for an entire slice to remove that doesn't involve disconnecting inner modules from the rest of the configuration. For example, sometimes both the top and bottom slices are connected to inner modules, so neither can be removed without disconnecting the configuration. Also, if the roof or floor contains the corner where we're building the tail, it can't be removed without disconnecting the tail. Even switching the direction we slice and trying to remove the sides instead would not fix the problem in general, because there are situations in which every wall has inner modules on it. Ultimately, to deal with non-convex holes, we have to relax the slice-by-slice approach to module selection. We solve this problem by sometimes pausing in the middle of removing a roof or floor slice. While that's paused, we remove the inner modules connected to it in an order specified by recursive call on the inner configuration. Finally, we resume deconstructing the roof or floor. The challenge is to specify exactly when we can pause the deconstruction of a slice and insert the recursive call. It has to be early enough to keep the inner modules connected, but late enough that we've opened up enough room for the inner modules to escape the hole. This requires several cells worth of clearance because of the pivoting collision constraint. The order of removal of the inner modules is given by a recursive call to the inner configuration. The recursive call has to be given a particular inner module adjacent to the roof or floor to treat as the last module to remove, just as the outermost call treats the corner where the tail is being built. To complicate matters, an inner configuration may be connected to the roof slice at multiple distinct inner slices. Our approach is roughly to wait until there's only one inner slice connected to the roof, then pause before it would remove the next roof module adjacent to that slice. We suspect there are other choices of exactly when to pause that could work, but this choice keeps how we express the recursion relatively simple. It also gives us some properties we leverage in our proof of correctness. Specifically, our paper proves that whenever we select a module, it can be removed without disconnecting the configuration, and it has a pivot path to the tail. To make things concrete, let's run through an example of reconfiguring into a line when the configuration has a non-convex hole. The actual configuration is closed on all sides to enclose the hole, but here we have side views with different sides opened up to show the inside of the hole. We'll build the tail upwards from a top corner, so the only available extreme slice to remove first is the bottom layer. We select mobile modules from the 2D outer boundary of this slice, and pivot them one by one to the end of the tail. Each path to the tail is found by breadth-first search, and our proofs guarantee that the path exists at the time a module is selected. Once the next module that would be removed from the floor is directly underneath an inner module, we pause deconstructing the floor. We then make a recursive call on the L-shaped inner configuration. In the inner configuration, we treat the bottom slice as the last to be removed because it keeps the inner configuration connected to the global configuration. So we select slices from the top down. We can see that enough of the floor has been removed that the inner modules can escape the hole and reach the tail. Now, the inner modules have all been removed, so we resume deconstructing the floor. Once we finish the floor, we continue to select slices which are extreme in Z and which are not adjacent to the tail. In this example, that means working up from the bottom. Once it's the last option left, we select the slice adjacent to the tail. We make sure that the module beginning the tail is the last to be selected. The entire plan takes O of n squared pivot actions, because when each module moves across the surface to the end of the tail, it passes over every other module at most once. To summarize, We provide a reconfiguration algorithm for pivoting cube modular robots. It works on any pair of admissible configurations with the same number of modules, and improves on previous work by handling non-convex holes. The resulting plans take O of n squared pivot actions. There are several limitations which give directions for future work. Our method is restricted to admissible configuration, but there may be ways to relax this by assuming a fixed number of extra mobile helper modules, as some other work has done successfully to relax admissibility conditions in 2 dimensions. Another limitation is that we only plan to move one module across the surface at a time, when in fact, there may be substantial speedup available if we allow modules to move in parallel. With proper communication to avoid collisions, we strongly suspect that it may be possible to reconfigure in O of n time steps instead of O of n squared. If modules can move in parallel, then a step after that could be to relax the assumption that we have global knowledge and control, and instead distribute the computation of the plans across the module network. Finally, our plans always go through an intermediate line configuration, but it may be possible to find much more direct plans in many circumstances. We'd like to thank the University of Pennsylvania School of Engineering and Applied Sciences for supporting this work. Thanks for watching our video, and we look forward to meeting you at the interactive session.